When it comes to the world of inspired video game genres, also known as freaking clones, Mario Party ripoffs have always been consistently one of the worst subsets of the group. Like, if you look at Mario Kart clones, right? The Sonic racing games have always been a reasonable alternative. Yeah, maybe not that one, but like Superstars Racing Transform, Sonic Riders. They're maybe not outright better, but good. And I've even seen some fans say they prefer them to Mario Kart, which for Sega is a huge win for anything. A tier below, but still tolerable, Super Smash Bros. Clones don't have the greatest track record, as Sony's PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale's legacy is just being a punchline in video essays. See, like that. But like, there's the Nickelodeon fighting games, which I heard are fine, Guacamelee. Like, you could do certainly worse. For instance, you could be playing a Mario Party clone. Trash? Why? What? Who? What the fuck? Now, that's not to say there's no fun Mario Party clones or similar games. I would say that's pretty unfair. The Wii Party games are fairly beloved and are considered to be some of the best Wii games. No, not Wii games, Wii games. And there are games similar to Mario Party like Fortune Street, which I've heard nothing but love for from the fans. But if we're being honest, this genre of games has largely been a resounding failure. These games, most of them releasing in the Wild West known as the early 2000s, are baseline kind of fun with the right people at the right party with the right substances. But I wouldn't classify them as high art, and neither do reviewers. Oh lord. See, I'd say a primary reason why this genre is widely considered to be weak is just a lack of distinct video game characters leading the fray. Like, oftentimes it would just be Shrek or the Totally Spies. I've never watched that show, sorry, I don't know who that is. So the idea of a massive video game franchise trying to take the mantle and rival Mario Party was a novel concept. We don't talk about this one. And what better franchise to do it than a franchise that's longer running and arguably more iconic than Super Mario. And so, welcome Pac-Man Fever, released in 2002 for the Nintendo Gamecube and the PS2. Not the Xbox though, I guess they just couldn't squeeze it in the budget. Now Pac-Man himself needs no introduction, especially on this channel. You know the deal, it was an iconic arcade classic where you would eat Tic Tacs, later confirmed to be cookies, eat fruit, and run away from ghosts like a coward. The Pac-Man franchise showed early on though that they weren't afraid to experiment with spin-off titles, jumping into the side-scroller realm for some reason only the deep state Namco executives understood. And hell, arguably most of the franchise's continued relevance in the late 90s and early 2000s stemmed from its most prominent spin-off series, Pac-Man World, which had 2 titles by the time of Fever's release. And as someone who has reviewed all of the Pac-Man World games, I can tell you that there was massive potential for this universe to be expanded upon. So, booting up the game, let me ask you a simple question. Why? The titular franchise, Pac-Man, has only 2 characters represented here. You have Pac-Man himself and Miss Pac-Man, and that's it. No Blinky, Inky, Pinky, Clyde, no Spooky, no Pac Jr., Pac Baby, no Professor Pac, no Chomp Chomp. Call me Avril Lavigne, because what the hell? Instead, the 4 remaining character slots are all Namco crossover characters. Wait, Namco has other franchises? We have Astaroth, representing Soul Calibur, Namco's flagship fighting franchise, Heihachi, Mishima, and Tiger Jackson from Tekken, Namco's actual flagship fighting franchise, and Reiko, who serves as sort of the mascot character for Namco's Ridge Racer series. There are more Namco fighting characters here than Pac-Man characters. Now, there's 2 reasons why this is a huge problem. Firstly, imagine being a kid hanging out with your friends in the early 2000s. You're all big Pac-Man fans, so you buy a game named Pac-Man Fever, you choose Pac-Man, Timmy chooses Miss Pac-Man, and okay, sorry, if you haven't played any of these other Namco franchises, you have to play these random characters you probably have never heard of. And secondly, why not call this game Namco Fever or something? Namco Party. It's almost like the developers preferred to sell more copies of the game with misleading marketing or something, instead of just being honest. Oh wait, that's exactly what happened. Like, look, at least have Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. And you might say, well, surely these 6 characters can't be the entire roster, except it very much is. I'm not kidding when I say you cannot unlock, you cannot purchase any other characters. What you see here is the entire damn roster. Now, like Mario Party 1 and 2 also only had 6 characters, but at least those characters were beloved Mario representatives. And Wario. But look, I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I'm judging the game too harshly. Maybe no. When I'm giving this preamble and we're like 5 minutes into this video, this game is gonna suck, isn't it? Okay, changing the subject. Something I forgot to talk about is the title of the game, Pac-Man Fever. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, that's because it probably subconsciously is. This name, coincidentally or not, shares the same title as the novelty song written by the musical duo Buckner and Garcia, who are famous for writing gimmicky songs of sorts, with the album Pac-Man Fever containing a whole trove of songs dedicated to arcade video games. It's actually a pretty good album. I would play some of the songs, but you know, copyright, also known as every YouTuber's excuse not to talk about something they don't feel like talking about. I love it. The duo didn't do much beyond this album though, and faded into obscurity, with one of the band members writing a country song named Letter to Saddam Hussein in the 1990s. Are you okay, bro? Anyways, it wasn't immediately clear in 2002 whether or not Pac-Man Fever's title was intended to be a reference to that song, but in 2022 though, a developer bravely spoke out and said that the developing team, known as Mass Media, tried to get the rights to the Pac-Man Fever song, but were brutally rejected. Also, who the hell is talking about Pac-Man Fever in 2022? Yeah, I just heard it. You know, speaking of Mass Media, what a bizarre lineup of games. Now, firstly, I want to point out that they actually ported Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness to the Dreamcast and N64, a game that I reviewed in 2023 and quite liked. In fact, Mass Media is probably most famous for two things: port jobs, which are their claim to fame and what they brag about on their website, and Mario Party clones. We're in for some trouble. Dude, they did Shrek Super Party, Jim Henson's Muppets Party Cruise, Nicktoons Movin', and Pac-Man Fever all in the span of 2 years. Okay, so we're just screwed. So, rebooting up the game, I skipped over the intro cutscenes earlier. We're at Namco Studios in the town of Namco, USA, in some film lot, where we're filming Battle of the Namco, copyright symbol, Stars, in a competition for the minigame cup. Why the hell is there a ribbon on the damn trophy? I mean, it just seems quite inefficient. We cut to a montage of Namco's greatest stars training their asses off, and man, these character models are so freaking uncanny. Like, I get it, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man are tiny compared to these guys, so you gotta shrink everyone down, but oh right, maybe they could have avoided this, maybe they could have just used Pac-Man characters or something. Again, it's just painfully clear that this was always intended to be some Namco crossover game. Nothing about this cutscene screams celebrating Pac-Man to me besides the indistinguishable ghost NPCs who stole the keys to the damn building. Am I taking too long to get to the actual party part of this game? Yes. Is that because I really don't want to? Yes. Here's how Pac-Man Fever works. Instead of having randomized dice rolls like Mario Party, you play mini games that don't have outcomes where you outright win or lose. Instead, these are all ranked mini games. So if you get first, you get to move 5 spaces, second moves 3 spaces, third moves 2, and last place moves a single pitiful space. So right off the bat, that is a massive difference from Mario Party. And I'll say for the sake of this video today and the footage, I will be comparing everything to Mario Party 2 on N64 and not the Gamecube titles. Mario Party 4 would be fair game, but I do feel like it makes my argument a bit stronger to say, look how much better this crap was done on a console with the power of a fork. So anyways, yes, in Mario Party your movement is random, shocker. Sometimes you get screwed, but most of the time, there is a layer of strategy to what you're doing in that game. Maybe there's a fork in the road, or a decision you have to make upon landing on a question mark space, or a strategic use of an item. The issue with Pac-Man Fever's minigames being skill-based is that this is the only aspect of the game that has any level of skill, or even interactivity involved with it. You know, sometimes people ponder the idea of fate. Are our entire lives laid out for us? Do we have any real control over our destinies? Well, guess what? If you're one of those people, Pac-Man Fever is the game for you, because everything that happens in this stupid game is pretty much out of your hands. I have more control over the freeway traffic than I do over anything in this game. I'm not actually joking too, because I'm pretty sure being an active participant in the traffic gives me more to do than playing Pac-Man Fever. Like the squares that you can land on— wait. Hold up 1 second here. Hello and welcome to Basic Elementary School with Jeff Compass. So if something has 3 lines, it's a triangle. If something has 4 lines, it's a square. If something has 6 sides, it sure is not a square. Even the Pac-Man fandom wiki calls these tiles and not squares, probably out of embarrassment. But okay, sure, let's start with the revenge square. If you land on this, you get to outright just take away half of a chosen opponent's tokens, the equivalent to Mario Party's coins. What's the damn point of this? Would there ever not be a reason to just, choose the opponent with the highest token count? Do I actually want less money here or more money? And if you're the one chosen, that sure sucks. Kinda makes the whole, do well at the minigames to win shtick sort of a scam. In the ghost square, you land on this thing and Clyde, a ghost just takes a random amount of tokens from you. I guess it's neither a Clyde nor a Blinky Day, it's just ghost. Yeah, no one's gonna get that reference. I get it. There's a token game square, and this is an okay concept. Basically, you have to play a minigame with skill or whatever to earn some coins by yourself. There are only 2 minigames, and they're basically the exact same. The wiki says 4. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm assuming these other 2 are just variations of these because I've never knowingly played them. In one, you have to just get the tokens in a bowl, I guess, and the other has you juggling the tokens. Either way, a monkey just throws giant anvils at you, and these are actually really hard to avoid since he'll throw them in an arc where they go off screen, and it's not initially clear where they're gonna land. I swear, this stupid monkey cheats. He's just a cheater. These get repetitive, but are generally speaking inoffensive, but I do hope this monkey gets kicked in the damn shins. And finally, there are spaces where you can challenge another player to a duel minigame. In Mario Party, duel minigames were fairly rare, but not super uncommon. Here, I swear at least 1 duel minigame happens per turn, and here, I'm really not just exaggerating, I'm only a little bit exaggerating. There are also simple spaces that could just move you forward and move you backwards, and there's a mystery space of sorts where all kinds of stuff can happen regarding tokens and the movement. And finally, there are the store squares. Now, this is another drastic departure from Mario Party, since it means going to a store is completely up to chance. In an actual good video game like Mario Party, you get the opportunity to walk on by past a store and then buy your items as you see fit. In Pac-Man Fever, it's completely up to chance whether or not you actually get to go to a store or not. Anyways, I need to go buy food for the week. Oh, wait, I just rolled a dice and I can't go until Tuesday, so I guess I'm just gonna starve instead. Look, I will give the developers some credit for trying to do something different with the formula here, but really this completely fails and just isn't clever. They would have been better off plagiarizing. A massive problem with the way this game functions too is that 2 players cannot be on the same space. Instead, the characters just stroll on by with the most awkward walking animations I've ever seen. Someone failed out of the Maya course, so here's why moving past a space is problematic. Let's say you do well at a minigame and you're feeling good. You get to move your 5 spaces and oh great, I can't land on the same space as this guy here, and oh, because of that, because I did well at the minigame, I get punished for it, have to walk past them and land on a reverse space or a ghost space. So the question is, like, should you throw the minigames so you can get a worse placement that might benefit you more if it gets you the certain amount of steps that... It's impossible to say, because depending on literally every input, every possible outcome, just a multitude of things all out of your control can just happen to you, and it's... I think I need to go lie down or something, honestly. There's just no strategy. Maybe there's a little bit depending on what you want to get at a store, as you can move a multitude of players backwards or move forward, but like, what's the odds you even have the token counts by the time you get there? And you know what? Maybe there would be some strategy if all the boards in this game weren't just straight lines. Yes, they curve and wrap around in a comically ridiculous fashion, like a game of Snake Gone Amok, but there are no pathways, nothing like that. Like, you just move straight. The only way through is forward, my friends. Don't look back at the past, focus on the future. Pac-Man Fever is based for your mental health. And look, this game has a grand total of 3 boards. No, I didn't stutter. I cut my stutter out of the voiceover. It has 3 boards. For reference, Mario Party 1 has 8, Mario Party 2 has 7. Hell, even jumping to the future a bit, everyone flamed Super Mario Party for the lack of boards, and the number being 4 is still pitiful. But in Pac-Man Fever, each and every board in this game is the exact same thing. And look, I wouldn't really care if this game had 3 boards and they were all unique and interesting, but the problem is they're essentially the same exact lines with the same exact squares. There are no gimmicks, there's no differences besides a refresh of puke-inducing visuals, and more importantly, the minigames you play. The developers figured instead of having actual variety or ways to shake it up, each board can instead just be played in a short, medium, or long setting. I say all this because here's the thing. I'll say it again, right? 3 boards, no matter how you slice it, are pieces of cake that are too tiny, but I can muster up the courage to accept it if each board was unique and fun. Again, think about Mario Party. Each board has a reason to exist and are just memorable. They don't all work. Some of them are probably borderline traumatic for children, but they try. I'm really just traumatized by this board. It doesn't help that the boards are just incredibly ugly. If I have to give this game credit for anything, I do appreciate the film set aesthetic. It's cute to see cameras on tripods or the various lighting rigs or gaffers moving around. I can give them credit for that idea being cute, especially as a film major. But if I keep touting my film degree in these videos, I'm pretty sure my school will retract it, because even I'm getting annoyed by saying that in these videos. Anyways, yeah, it's a neat idea, but the graphical fidelity is probably some of the worst I've ever seen relative to a game's release date. great. The skies and backgrounds are literally boxes where you can just literally see the lines ending, and I get why it looks like that if this is a film set, but it comes off more like they skimped and sheeped out on the graphics here rather than making it look like this game takes place on a film set. I know it's sort of a generic insult, but I'm actually serious when I say that Roblox maps look better than this. And these maps are just so cluttered. They're almost overstimulating. There's way too much stuff going on. Like, in fact, if this was an actual film set, there would be so many lawsuits from people tripping over the gizmos and gadgets aplenty on the ground. Quite honestly, outside of the character models, which are passable, this looks like a late era N64 game. And what's with all these fonts? Not only are they extremely crusty, but they don't fit the tone of the game at all. It looks like the fonts you'd see in Cat in the Hat or something. There's no cohesive theme, there's just 10 million of them, and the back of the box art has generic iMovie text. Somebody used Pages. The only significant change between the boards, as said, are the minigames. That's somewhat important because winning at minigames is the only real control you have over anything in this excuse of a video game, but even the minigames only have so much that could be said about them. Now, to my count, there are 28 4-player minigames in Pac-Man Fever. 6 of these are present in all 3, taking place on the film lot. The tropical board has 8 exclusive minigames, and the medieval and space boards have 7. So yes, that means that each pool has a maximum of 14 minigames. So what happens is you get a lot of dang repeats, and as far as I know, the game doesn't space these out either. So in my experience, I ended up playing the same handful of minigames over stretches of the board. Now, to be fair, there are 3 2v2 player minigames. Now, what triggers these appearing? Not a damn clue, just whenever the game feels like it. As mentioned, there are dual minigames, but I don't count these as unique because the dual minigames are literally just the 4-player minigames, but awkwardly condensed to have 2 players instead. Well, that's a surefire way to cut down on development. We may only have to spend $200 instead of $250 to make this game. Wow. Like, look, if you wanted to reuse the 4-player minigames for this function, fine, but can you at least make it so the screen only shows the spaces for 2 players? Instead, they just awkwardly have empty spaces, and it just looks really unprofessional. Or maybe that just fits in because everything in this game looks unprofessional. But okay, let's talk about the minigames themselves. In Mario Party, minigames aren't perfect. They're often shallow, and yes, sometimes random, but at the end of the day, they're fun, memorable. It's something you will smile at and enjoy. Pac-Man Fevers, well, they're not fun, and they're memorable, but in a bad way, like a kidney stone. Before we talk about some of the minigames, I do want to mention something that's just like kind of weird with Pac-Man Fever that I don't think I've ever really experienced with a video before, except maybe like Go Vacation. But there's really poor coverage of this game on the internet. I looked up like minigame compilations to make sure I wasn't missing anything, or I played them all before talking about them. And honestly, the best I could find was like some CRT footage of like some of the minigames and some awkward playlists. Like, thank you if you're doing that. But also, Pac-Man fans, where are you at, guys? First, one of my biggest problems I have with the minigames in Pac-Man Fever is that they really lack balance. Either they are incredibly easy to win, or you get completely owned by Tekken fighters. I don't think I ever won this fishing minigame, for instance, once. So every time it came up, I just had to accept I'd be moving in one space, and same thing with this stupid hurdle minigame, where I'd always just fall behind immediately. They're experts of this game, please let me know what I'm doing wrong here. Now, a lot of the minigames in Pac-Man Fever can be lumped into groups of similar mechanics. There are the moving minigames like playing tag or collecting items. These are probably some of the closest this game gets to being like Mario Party and are playable. Probably the highlight of this game, and ain't that sad. There are the stand-still sports types of games like golf and baseball, and these are almost unplayable due to the horrendous depth perception. Like, they want you to time your hits adequately, and obviously the A button works and you can make contact with the balls, but there's no indication on when is best to press the button. In fact, it might just be luck-based for all I know. Skill issue? Maybe, but how about you play it and report back to me on how it controls? Yeah, that's what I thought. Though to this game's credit, the golf game in the medieval board is probably the best minigame in my opinion, as you have to time your putts. I don't know, is that the right phrase? I don't play golf. Anyways, you have to time your hits while a bunch of stuff is happening. It's actually fairly involved and requires you to think, which is very rare for this game. There are the minigames where you have to throw or push stuff towards your opponents. These shouldn't be that bad in practice, but they just don't feel right. I think these and the be a goalie type of minigames share an issue, in that your screen real estate is usually super small, and this game is in a whopping, and by whopping I mean hideously ugly 480i with no progressive scan, so the quality and just general blurriness of the action makes it tough to know what you're doing sometimes. I don't know, look, this is sort of a subjective complaint probably, but I will say for the record, I never had feedback issues with any Mario Party game. There are minigames where you shoot. I'm running out of witty things to say, you just shoot. Guess I'm shooting blanks. Yeah, the physics can be really awful here, like Torpedo Pond, where you have like a 3-second delay. I don't know, there are other types of minigames, that's not literally all of them. Like there's this minigame where you abduct aliens. I wonder if in the Pac-Man franchise, there's another mysterious, otherworldly being that would have made more sense to capture than cartoony generic aliens, what the hell. But like, yeah, this covers most of the board-exclusive minigames at least. Now there are the 6 minigames that take place on the film lot that can appear on all the boards, and these are marginally better in the same way a cavity is marginally better than a root canal. Actually, speaking back to the balance issue, these are all some of the stupidly easy minigames. I won them basically all the time, like Ghost Whackers. You know, you guys could have just called this Whack-a-Ghost. Ghost Whackers, what the hell? Dart Toss, can you press A twice? Congrats, you're unstoppable. Vend-A-Fruit is one of the worst minigames though. You have to time your A presses 6 times on these stupid fruit machines. It's not the worst idea for a minigame, but the fact that you're so scrunched on the screen makes it sort of a headache. Now I did play this game on a tiny monitor, but on the other hand, I can't imagine how awful this would look on an actual like 4K TV. You might see each individual pixel. Some of these minigames are completely luck-based too. On top of this entire damn game being luck-based, Fruit Mash is awful. You not only waste precious food that starving children could have eaten, but the fruit goes by so fast that you can't actually time your inputs and I can't win. But yeah, the starving thing, bigger issue. The bananas give you 10 points, but since each fruit is literally a frame, I genuinely don't know what you can do to time it. Cart Dash is okay, but you hover so much at the top that it's impossible to see what's ahead of you, which is typically not good when you're driving a motor vehicle. I don't know, like these minigames aren't that bad to be fair, but there's just something like off about them that I can't really describe. Like, it's like you're playing the Gamecube with your friends and someone bumps into you and spills their Mountain Dew on your controller, and then you're pressing the A button, but it's like kind of squishy. That's kind of how Pac-Man Fever feels, but like the entire game. But either way, I just feel like I lack control when I play this game, which is not good for playing a video game typically. That being said, because these are the only part of the game with any damn interactivity, the minigames in Pac-Man Fever are probably still the best part of the game, which is just groovy. These aren't terrible, they're just repetitive and quite frankly uninspired. I don't even think the issue is the minigames themselves per se, more so like the lack of minigame variety. I mean, the fact that you're playing the same 13 or 14 minigames per board is seriously monotonous, especially because the game doesn't space them out. For reference, Mario Party 2 had 21 4-player minigames, which isn't that many more, but you weren't always playing 4-player minigames. You often had 1v3 games and 2v2 games, in addition to the battle minigames, which felt special and broke up the monotony. So like, yeah, you do play a lot of the same games if you put some serious hours into Mario Party 2, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really feel like a repetition issue in that game, and certainly not if you're having fun with your friends. And maybe that was my issue. Like, I played Pac-Man Fever entirely with computers. Maybe if I played this game with actual humans, this could have been slightly more fun, but I also don't even know that to be the case, because it's like, if you're with your friends, right, it's a Saturday night, everyone's partying, everyone's dancing, and you're like, all right, we could play Mario Kart, we could play why not just play Super Smash Brothers? Why not just play, you know, Mario Party, unless you're just broke? But even then, I think you'd rather just go down the dang street and kick some rocks. That's not the last word I have on these minigames though, because Pac-Man Fever, believe it or not, has an actual endgame and conclusion. Here's how this works. During the span of the board, you have the opportunity to buy raffle tickets, either from a store or by landing on a raffle square. Now during my playthrough, I honestly had no idea what the point of this was. It doesn't affect the, board game. They don't really explain why you're buying raffle tickets. Even the instruction manual really doesn't go into detail here. It's like some hidden secret. You just land on a board and it's like, okay, what do you want me to do with this information? Well, it turns out at the end of the board game, you can use said tickets to buy the minigames that you played. Buying all the minigames is how the game ends, so to speak, as our brilliant team of heroes finally makes it into the building, locks up the ghosts in prison without a trial, and it parties. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. There's not much to say, but there is at least a point to the raffle tickets, even if it's not clear, and it's sort of badly implemented. But can we talk about that for a second? The game developers put a single player focused mechanic in the middle of their multiplayer mode, with the raffle stuff basically having no impact on the actual game. The last major note of importance of the minigames, I'll say, is that they are significantly more important in the final turns of the game. As to win, you need to get to the end of the straight line, but for the few final spaces, if you don't place highly in the minigames, you don't get to move on, with each giant space having the possibility to accumulate all 4 players. This is a neat idea, but honestly, after an hour of doing the same exact that crap, it's just too late for any variety to truly matter. With your purchase minigames, there's also a minigame mode, where you can play a single minigame, 5 minigames, or 10. But as said, you need to pay for these minigames. I wouldn't pay 25 cents in an arcade for 90% of these. I barely even want to spend my digital raffle tickets on them. Honestly, I don't even know what else I could say to wrap up my thoughts on the party mode as a whole, because I feel like there's so little substance that anything more I have to say on this is just repeating old points. It's just so shallow. Like, I'm self-conscious. It's gonna sound like I didn't go into enough depth here, but no, that's the entire game. I'm really not leaving out anything. Pac-Man Fever is repetitive, it's ugly, there's almost nothing in control or any reason to strategize, but worst of all, and this I think is the worst defense a game or any piece of media can have, is that Pac-Man Fever is just downright boring. Multiple times while recording footage, I just started going on my phone and zoning out of whatever crap was happening. Doom scrolling is more engaging than Pac-Man Fever. I had to literally wake myself up to keep playing this game. I had this discussion with a few of my video making friends while working on the Pac-Man Fever video. The question came up, is Pac-Man Fever the worst game that I've ever covered? And surprisingly, I actually think it is. Let me state one more time that I think the worst defense that a video game can commit is just being boring. It's like, is Drawn to Life 2 Realms objectively a worse video game? Yes, undoubtedly. It almost melted my entire damn Switch, but at least you do stuff in that game. At least you're in control. The same can be said about both Super Monkey Ball Adventure and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, 2 games that which there's no love lost between us with, but at least with those 3, which I feel are the worst games I've covered, I can give them the praise of saying they are a video game, which might not sound like much, but I don't think I can actually say that about Pac-Man Fever. This video game is essentially a board game. You may as well just be sitting in front of an actual cardboard mat rolling a die. Mario Party transcended the need to be a board game by having different routes, by having the stores with items, by just having elements that would make it impossible for it to be sold as a tangible game. Pac-Man Fever doesn't deserve to exist, and I know that sounds harsh, but there's almost nothing I can praise this game for. I mean, look, it works, it functions, I didn't have any glitches while playing it, but that's not really an achievement. It should just work anyway. I actually want to end this review by apologizing to a prior game that I reviewed before, because games have feelings. I want to say that I was wrong about Pac-Man World Rally. Not Kart Rally though, I'm still waiting for that game to apologize to me. In my Pac-Man World Rally review, I was pretty harsh on that game for its lack of commitment to the Pac-Man franchise. As many of you commented, I was a bit too mean to it, as my main criticism was that I felt it used too many generic world themes and didn't belong in the franchise. I stood by my thoughts of that game for years, but now that I've played Pac-Man Fever, I actually have to say I was just wrong. World Rally is 10 times better in every way, and has actually become more of a respectable spin-off in my eyes after playing Fever. Honestly, besides Pac-Man and the ghost NPCs, this game has nothing to do with Pac-Man. Like, if you're a Pac-Man fan, don't buy it. If you're looking for a good and a respectable Pac-Man spin-off, check out World Rally. I mean, it's by no means a perfect game, but looking back, I did have some fun with it, and compared to Fever, it's literally genius. And look, Pac-Man would go out and get a party game on the Wii, which I've never played, and maybe that game's better. Nope, damn it. I guess Pac-Man party games are just screwed, and now I'm gonna have to take a look at that one too, aren't I? Crap. As for Fever's legacy, this game got destroyed by reviewers at the time, and no one has been pining for this game since. And so, I'll leave this video with a quote by Electronic Playground. This is the kind of plague that should see Pac-Man quarantine and approached only by trained disease control experts in the shelter of a hazardous material suit. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. There's no other words. That's beautiful. That's brilliant writing. I hope that writer is like writing movies now, because that is, in essence, Pac-Man Fever. Oh, in fact, I think I'm starting to run a fever myself. I'm not feeling too good, guys. I think I have to go sit down. I'm okay.